my work with Epic, I was a teaching artist for all of the theaters in New York City prior to co-founding Epic, and have been in all of the boroughs except for Staten Island. Although I spent my first 9 months there, so yes, thank you. Yes, and then you know, bringing theater into contact with social justice is a passion of mine and of Epic's, and I think in terms of this workshop itself, this idea of staging power, we're not only looking at how power is communicated on stage and what does that mean, but also how do we share power in the room with our students. When I was coming up in theater, I really learned that the director had the power, and that's who controlled the space in the room and the decisions, and you very much listened to whatever he had to say. And I think it's really interesting to think about how can we share power in the room and see that as an asset rather than a restriction placed on us, going like, oh, I really should let student voice in on this, but like how does it augment and how can we see that as an asset without letting go of the fact that you have these years of training and expertise and artistry that you want to bring into the space, right? And not handing over the full reins, but also balancing that out with student voice. And so hopefully this workshop will not only look at techniques artistically, but also around that. That's my focus and goal. That's the hope. So, hello and welcome. We have more chairs if you want to, and there's squish people in, yes? Great, so we're going to do just a really quick warm-up just to get ourselves re-energized after lunch. I had that cookie, which I'm sort of regretting because I know it's going to hit me in the little sugar dip in a moment. But let's everyone just stand up and do a little freestyle stretching. Like what do you want to stretch? Just start with a stretch, okay, and stretch that. And then you're going to see someone else in the circle who's doing a stretch that reminds you, oh yeah, that's a stretch I want to do. And you're going to shift to that. And while you're stretching, you're going to see somebody else do something that you think, ooh, that looks good. And in a moment, you're going to switch to that. Go ahead. Good. And one more time, you're going to see somebody in the circle who's doing something that you like. And you're going to do that. Or something else. I like this one. Great. I'm going to ask you to do crazy eights, and a lot of you have led this workshop before. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I do it with hips because we have them. So let's warm them up. So that is going to be a moment. Think about something that probably happens with students if you've led this, that they forget about their voices while they're doing it. They're like, you know. So don't forget about your voice, and don't forget about it's also warming up commitment. So it's not just about going through the motions, it's also really, really committing. Yeah, let's start with full volume at a 10 when we do 10, and then as we go down, our volume matches the number we're saying in terms of the scale, but we don't lose the intention. Does that make sense? Okay? All right.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Yes.
Awesome. Take a seat. Yes. Yes. Woo. Breathless. So. There's a paper up here. Did it fall?
Yeah, they took it.
There's one right there behind you.
No, they took both of them. One said power and the other thing.
I think it said,
Somebody stole my power. All right, good night, everybody. It's hilarious. Wait,
What did I
somebody took the power thing.
do? Somebody stole your power?
It's recorded. Let's go back.
I can make you a new one. I'm on.
Okay, that's all right. All right, so that's hilarious. Someone stole my power. What do I do? All right, here we go. We're gonna play a game called the Great Game of Power. Maybe familiar to some of you. Hopefully, this sequence, if you played this game before, the sequence itself is the thing I want to kind of look at that we're about to do. Okay, the way this works is there are six chairs, identical chairs, a table, and a water bottle. Somebody in this ensemble is going to arrange these eight items in such a way that gives one of the chairs the power, the most power. And we're going to talk about what that means. What does that mean to get the power on stage? And the little caveat I would say is without hiding anything. So it's not about like, I know what to do, I'll throw this out the window, or, yeah, that's it. Those are the rules. Does someone have an idea right for this? Is just they're randomly placed right now. Any ideas on, yes, great, go ahead, what's your name?
Josh.
Josh. There we go. And if you need help, let us know.
Voila.
Voila. And this is how you would like it, Josh? You were satisfied
Yes.
with this picture? Great. Okay. Now, it's a thrust stage, so it may be different over here, right? From someone who is sitting right here and that point of view from the story. With that in mind, what does this chair have the power in your mind?
No.
Okay. Controversy. Okay. Go ahead.
The water has power.
Okay. Why?
Because the water is sitting on the throne and everyone else is bowing down.
So I love that because already we're getting a story, how quickly it becomes a story, right? So we're saying, okay, this is the king, this water bottle, right? Which is really interesting. Does anyone see it that way? Or see it that way now? Now you can't unsee it, right? Right? It's great. So we're talking about the power in a story versus the visual power. What do you think? And that might be the same thing. What has the strongest, what takes the visual power in this set? What do you think? Yeah.
I'd say the chairs that are tipped over, because it's different than we expect to normally see them, either folded and stacked like against the wall in the carrier or seated around the table. Now they're in a position that is not useful for us to immediately use or sit in, so it's different than what we expect. And it makes me think of people who are bowing down or touching their foreheads to the ground because they're inverted like that.
Yeah, so there's a story there, and there's also just like the unexpected nature of that, right? For those of you who think that this chair has the power, why? Yeah.
We think it's the highest of the section. But I guess it does share the power of the water bottle. Or
Yeah, it's a little power sharing right here. Yeah. Yes.
It's providing a platform for the water.
Right. Right. Yeah. Go ahead.
I feel like the fact that these chairs are turned over, it like recalls an action or emotion or a movement of like flipping. I see them. I see like that they can be flipped, which makes me think of the chairs as like fragile or so that chair is the same as these chairs that can be so easily flipped.
Nice. Love that. Right. That this is precarious. This power is a moment. It's momentary. Yeah.
It also depends if you look at it as like a story of objects. If you start putting humans or characters into it, then you think of the person in the chair is going to be the one with the power of the water, and they is like almost like a little king who's going to climb up. And everybody else has to come and flip their chair over to have the meeting. So.
That was awesome.
That's a really great narrative that you built there. I love that. All right, so thank you, Josh, for this set. Let's have someone else come in and just try a completely different formation. We can help you. You can have assistance. Great. Go ahead. What's your name?
Jason.
Jason. Josh Station. Okay. Great. You need help?
Nah.
These are very heavy chairs. Sometimes we have very heavy chairs. What's Jason gonna do? Okay, interesting. Is this how you want it, Jason?
Yeah,
Okay. And that chair downstage is what?
that's Ed.
No. Oh, that's Ed?
Yeah, that's Ed.
Okay, all right. I don't know what that means by the line reading of that. Well, that's Ed. So which chair or item, I should say, which of the 8 objects has the most power? What do you think? Do you think that chair, the upstage center chair? Yeah?
I feel like that was my first thought, but then it could be like an interview or like someone being interviewed, in which case I feel like that chair is
It's interesting because, Andrew, isn't it similar to, it's somewhat similar to one in the morning, but it was, the one in the morning was more like a flat picture, but this diagonal, if you can use your mind's eye rather than my labor, to flip the chairs this way and then one chair there, does that change the dynamic? One chair here and 4 chairs here? How so?
Oh, yes, because they're coming in.
Right.
And if you have it that way, then it would be like what she said, he's being interviewed, but if this person's already here, they're coming to his meeting.
Right.
Or her, or there.
Or there, yes. Well, what about that chair there? What about Ed? This supposed Ed chair.
I feel like
Yeah.
Ed's got the power, he's like guarding the door or something for people
Yeah.
coming in. Like maybe he's like a bodyguard or something.
Yeah.
For me, it feels like when you put the table diagonally, the table has the power, and our Ed is the one who's resistant to the power. It's kind of maybe a meandering.
Yeah.
For me, the table feels like has the most. That's where I keep looking at. Just looking at this table.
Yeah. Interesting, Josh.
Yeah, I think having the chair over there is almost like a trope we see where there's something going on in a room like an interrogation or an interview,
Right.
and there's somebody in the shadows in the back who's really pulling the strings.
Yeah.
That's what Ed feels like to me over there. Because I agree with everybody who's saying like this is pointed, so that has the least power. These people have medium power, but Ed has the real power.
So I also there's some incredible power with that downstage center spot. I was mentored by someone who would say like whenever you can, just try to get downstage center, you know. And I was like, oh okay, he's a Tony Award-winning actor. And he'd be like, just get yourself down center. So seriously, it's still in my head when I'm rehearsing. I'm like, so maybe I should. Right. So that's a powerful, right? That's a very powerful position. There's no doubt about it. You think that that's the center of the story. All of the hands up. This is true to every single time I've run this with students in so many different settings. So like wondering, like, are students gonna have these many thoughts and questions? Yeah. Yes. It's just one of those things that's like evocative, right? So let's have people because we want to, right? We start out with stories that are coming. So somebody's gonna enter into Jason's set here. And they're going to take a frozen stage position. Imagine these are nailed down, right? So, boom. The water bottle can be moved or used, but not hidden, okay? But these are all nailed down. This is reasonably, like you can sit on it, but don't stand on it, even though you might want to, and for safety's sake. And yeah, so someone's going to enter and take a frozen stage position. and take the power, and be the person on stage with all the power. And you don't have to raise your hand, you're just gonna walk on stage and you're gonna know it's you. You're gonna do it. All right, so Erin has taken this position. Where does our eye go? Let's go to Erin. Or are we looking at Ed still? Still looking at Ed? You're still looking at Ed? Ed's not even there yet. Or is it the chair? I don't know. Right. So, but I mean, I think like anytime a human enters space, we're gonna wonder who's gonna get there, who's gonna go there, right? You know. Let's see if someone else is gonna take the stage and yes and see if they can take power from Erin's frozen picture.
Oh, no, that's not true.
Now I want to see it. Some edit there.
Can I change my
Just
arm?
do it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just do it. Oh,
Yeah.
We believe that. Up there, man. You got this.
I.
There you go.
Yes. Good to tell yourself. We love that.
Thanks.
Okay. Love that. First of all, that's commitment, right? So there's a couple things here I think that are really interesting. This back to the audience, really interesting, right? What does that do? What in terms of power? It directs us visually here, but then we have some questions about who this mysterious.
Unless this is
But
theater
I was
around.
like, well,
Unless
and-
this is
and
theater
for
of the-
thrust, he,
Absolutely.
he does. Yeah, he's giving me some power, because he looks
Yeah.
at, like
Yes.
they said before, as though he's controlling it, or as he has to be the director of some sort.
Yeah. That's
Kinda like
right.
a quiet power.
This is very different from over here. Yes, very
There's
different.
also a lot of like gender power.
Yeah, agreed.
Yes.
It looks like an audition to me, and
Hmm.
she's doing it like, I'm a girl code, and he's doing it
Male gaze.
Yes. I love that. Because the bodies that are actually on stage matter too, right? It's not just, you know, a person. Yeah. Yes, yes.
I just, that chair there keeps making me think that it's like a memory or
Yeah.
a flashback. Like, I see the lights back here and us, like he was saying before, Josh, right? Like in the dark or focus on like, this is my memory or even if he's not forward, but if he was forward, like, this is what happened back then and then our eye goes here. Then it changes
He
power.
would narrate and then he would turn around.
He's a
and
narrator and this is his scene,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is his memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Yes, and again, commitment is fantastic. Look at that. Look at that. One more person's going to enter the space to take power. Who would go?
There you go.
Yes. What is that doing? Tell us the story of that. Yes.
This seems like a mediator who
Ooh.
has who's leading the conversation between two people who disagree. So that mediator now is like the hinge point or the focus.
Can I just so that they can have the experience? Can someone tap out Erin here? Just tap out Erin. Just tap out Erin. Can you tap out Erin?
I don't know if they did the same experience.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm just
Tap out
thinking,
Erin.
yeah.
Is it the same thing? Yeah.
The same position?
Same position. Yes, thank you. I love that first of all. And yes, can you tap?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if we always have to have the same experience exactly, but because we're different bodies, right? But I just wanted to give the people who are up there the experience of seeing that. For those of you who are in that tableau, can you speak of what you see in terms of power? So you get a chance to see it a little
There's
bit.
so many different focal points.
Yeah.
There's like relationship here, but the pointing of these two people also here is so interesting. Makes me wonder what's happening.
I feel like the addition of that last piece made it a singular image as
Yeah.
opposed to two separate things going on. It definitely connected everything together.
Yeah, right. As opposed to like the memory, kind of that story. Yes.
Be commenting also on the slight changes that they made. This
Yes,
group,
please do. Yeah.
like the young lady up there, she looks like she has more power than the stance is different. The stance is, the head is up, it's more powerful stance. and the young lady sitting in the chair, she's sitting back instead of forward than the other one. Her arms are a little bit more rounded.
And how does that change the story for you then?
It takes away the urgency that character had.
Right, it just changes the dynamic a little bit. I think that's beautiful to talk about how details change power, right? Great, can we release these from the, these actors? While I kind of deconstruct this, Josh, can you restore your set?
I'll try.
All right. So what is the, what do we learn about power from this exercise? Yes.
It's subjective, it has layers, different kinds of it.
Say that last one?
There's different kinds of power.
Right. And what are some of the different kinds of power?
Well, like someone mentioned shadow power. There's like a surface level, a sensible, like power through authority, power through influence, power, physical power.
Wow. Okay.
I think we have to add gender to that list because there was so much discussion about the male gaze over here versus the female gaze upstage.
Right. So different kinds of power and right, and then we have actual just like also some visual power versus story power. You know, levels, yeah. We have that great diagonal, right? So just to think about power in a way that's like more complicated, has more layers, like as you were saying. All right. So I'm going to give you an assignment. In order to complete the assignment, I need you to count off 1 to 4. This is, by the way, the set you all are going to use for the assignment because we gave a lot of attention to Jason's set with that last exercise. So we're going to give this is going to be our set for this next exercise. Are you a set designer by trade? No. Okay. All right. Well, you are not. It's on the resume. It's on the resume. All right. So count off 4. 1,
2, 3,
4.
2, 3,
4.
1,
2, 3, 4,
1,
2,
3,
1,
2, 3,
4,
1, 2, 3, 4.
1.
2, 3, 4.
1.
2, 3. Great. And 1s, raise your hand. 2s, 3s, 4s. I didn't really do that with you, but I always do that with students because they're like, wait, what number am I? So right. All right. So in groups, in 4 groups, you're going to be given a couple of story points from a scene from Macbeth. Your job is to create 2 tableaus for with each representing the story point, right? And you have more than the number of characters in represented, so you just have to be creative about that. So if you need, you can add numbers of witches, you can add other structural elements to the scene. You can find ways to make use of the fact that you've got more actors. You can have someone step outside and have an outside eye, or you can flip who's in the tableau 1 versus tableau 2. It's up to you. Make sense? I'm addressing that because that was a question that came up in the morning. And I put my folders down here. So I'm going to hand you this sheets, but I'm going to make sure you can get started. So I am going to hand the first 4 people the assignment, and then I'll hand you more of this. You have the story points for the other groups as well, so that you can see where you fall in the scheme of things. Okay? And the assignment is summarized at the top. So if you're like, wait, what did you just say? It's there. Have fun and commit to it. You have 10 minutes. Group 1, Group 2, Group 3, Group 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can use tables to practice. This is the set. You can replicate the set using tables. You're not moving that. You can.
I don't want to break it.
One.
2.
Okay, we have half a dozen. Take care. Next up.
We are 1. Go ahead. Yeah, go for it.
Collaboratively stage 2 to 3 tableaus that communicate characters and power dynamics through side storytelling. This is a silent exercise. Focus on collaboratively create stage characters. Use what you learn to take your power and choose which character or characters have the power to get table, chairs, and water.
Cool. So staging, act 1, scene 2?
So we're using that for both.
Oh, we're only doing this.
No, we're doing
Yes.
both.
Two pictures.
Yeah.
Recommend the signatures.
Great beginning.
Macbeth and Banquo walk through an open field, tired but triumphant from battle, noticing how strange the weather has become. They do not notice the 3 witches
Okay, so
yet.
we have Macbeth, Banquo, 3 witches, 5 characters, right?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I'll be grass. Or you want to be a tree?
Or
Yeah.
you could be weather.
Yeah.
Weather.
It's not, no, that works.
Oh,
Yeah, so okay, so
But also good that so they have just come out of battle.
The witches are above, and then the Banquo and Macbeth are below, and then power dynamic is over, and they bow down. So that's what I was asking for advice. So we could have like a Banquo and
No, I'll be your outside eye.
outside eye. Okay, great. But if there's like a Banquo and a Macbeth somewhere standing apart, Banquo and Macbeth right here, and then the 4 of you will be 4 witches. Then I would think like, what if the 2 of you were sort of beseeching them for like asking them for advice, and you were sort of up above? Can we get some like witchy spell casting energy, some requesting down below? Ooh, yeah.
And the other witches are like in rotation.
yeah, we need a head.
You know? It's almost like yeah, she's facing out, she's gone, and he's
The guy with check shirt.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
There's 4 chairs.
yeah.
Oh, 5 chairs.
So, like, in order to capture the rotation of the witches, what if, like, she's facing all the way out, and this one's at, like, 3/4, and this one's, like, at halfway.
A little bit more.
Yeah, so that they're all turning.
So maybe have someone
Are we 7?
shorter being this one.
Wow, perfect. We have 5 witches and 2. Perfect number.
Let's make it like
All right. Yeah.
So what should
who wants to be Banquo like that?
who should be the how many witches do you want? 5?
Great.
One on each
One on each pair. A witch.
A witch? I'll be
Okay,
Mac.
so you said the masked people.
Does anyone else have a
So if you
I don't know.
Yes.
And I mean that was just a thought.
Yeah.
You're the witch. Cool. So you're facing out. Yeah, like different positions. You're so cool right now. What about
What if it's empty? The first tableau is Mac and Banquo looking at the water. And then the second tableau is with the witches like emerging, right? And then they can do this, that third one.
Yeah, do we get 3 per bullet point?
2 or 3.
2 to 3. There's 2 to 3 total. So you need to address the second one.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll be like this. So while you're looking at the water, are we all facing you? Yeah. And then we all turn.
How do you want me to
And you reach out.
You're learning your kid's gonna be king.
Come on, use your knowledge of Macbeth.
Okay. So they're redoing it.
So, let's just now, like, I think
then the second tableau would be the witches, like coming from emerging from the crowd, and they come on stage for the second tableau.
And then when you use the third one, but you guys disagree. So the third one would be the auction house.
Yes.
And then what if you guys go under the stuff? Oh, yeah. You know, like if you both fit under, be like so. We can like style. And we could even what if the research leaves the spot and comes down like across the street? Yeah. Whereas the rest of us, which
Like you sit here, and another witch comes over, he's like, I want to just see what that is. I always like the volume donations out here. And we need another witch here.
He's not a witch. He looks very witchy.
Yeah. You should just be a witch.
That's good. I'd be a witch.
Just be a witch. And I like, what if the water was something you offer into the, to us?
It's part of the spell. It's
Part of the trick.
Water if you dare.
Okay. So have we decided that the extra people are bodies, like walking through the water?
Well, listen, we got.
Oh wait, that's the second one, right?
So
The second one could be offering the water.
Suggestion, first one here, second one.
Well, maybe the first one could be having it out behind your back. That's it.
No, we're just practicing. No.
That's supposed to be part of the set.
It is part of the set.
It's just a set. It doesn't have to be part of the set.
If you have an idea. That's a good idea. That's an idea. So it's like the death when they're not over here.
I think if we're
How about two?
1 minute.
Tableau three?
maybe if you're standing on the side of your back to half your wall. So you're from that side they see you walking, from this side they can't see what you're doing.
Well, you guys are gonna generate, we could try to.
Even hotter.
Okay.
So good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so the first one is just sit.
Here we go. Final moment. Final moment. Run it through. What are your three tableaux?
And then
Run it through.
we use the chairs too.
Closer. Okay.
I'll do this. Yeah.
If you hear me, stop one.
And you'll put your hand.
Clap.
If you hear me, come and take a seat. Okay?
Bring your seats.
Bring your seats with you.
There's still a lot of.
Can I have group one in the wing?
No.
Oh my God.
Don't drink our power.
No, I don't think that's it. Make her hot.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I'm gonna go die.
Okay, this is how it's gonna go. So, group one is going to do their two tableau. Group two, they're gonna stay. First of all, group one is gonna stay frozen in that second tableau. Group two is gonna come take the position of the second tableau. And who do you tap out? You tap out your equivalent character who you play in your world. So you have to identify who's the Macbeth, who are the witches, right? Right? In that tableau, and I think it should be clear, right?
Well, we're gonna do the first one, think of the second one, and then we're
And then you're gonna get tapped out. If there's an extra person, then you just exit the stage if you don't get tapped out. Or if you're invited to stay, as in the morning, stay.
Yep.
You can stay. Yes. No, group one, you just live your life. No, we're not gonna go back. That's cool. I like that. Cycles. Right. So group one just lives their life, does their thing. Group two, right? That does their thing, and you can guess where it goes from there. At the end of the second tableau of group two, group three kind of taps out. They go, I think that's the banquo, or I think that's the witch, etc. And maybe tap out the witch who's closer to where you are on stage. Right? Make sense? Okay. So what we're looking at. Yeah, if you add characters, then you wouldn't necessarily tap someone out. You would just go do your thing. Okay? Look at them getting into places. I'm going to say lights in just a moment. We're going to see the start of this. But I want you to notice visual power and the power of story and who you think has the power in this first tableau. Just really take that in. If you're group two, especially take in who's playing what. Okay. And lights. Whenever you're ready, transition to tableau two.
Two, three, lights out.
Oh my God. Wow. So great. Now talking about it, group two is going to go right in and tap out. If you want, I feel like these guys might need to stay. I don't know. But if you, what do you think? Well, group two, go and tap out. Go and tap out. If you think someone should be tapped out because they might be in the way or if they're
Little combat rollout.
And if you aren't tapped out and you want to keep like one eye open so you can see what's going on, okay. Great. And lights. And transition. I love this moving transition. Yes. Staying in character. Oh my gosh. Look at the difference between our two lead characters here. In either direction. It's beautiful. And group three will tap out. Group two, stay. This is their first tableau. So powerful, that was two. That's how powerful it was. Second tableau. Yes. Gorgeous. And now, we'll tap out. Someone is calling it. I think you're
I'm good.
Great. Oh. Beautiful. All right, and four. Take that position, wherever your corresponding character is. Who's your second tableau? That was gorgeous. What did you notice about the power dynamics of maybe a tableau that you saw and didn't do, right? You know, what were some of the ways in which power was staged that you noticed that you loved? Yeah.
Well, kind of like the list we made earlier about all the different kinds of power, and that sometimes the power is just like something that's visually interesting or delightful. I loved in the first tableau the dead people and the recalling the barbed wire and the bodies. And it's like I was definitely drawn to the path. Even though those people arguably had the least amount of power,
Right.
They were dead.
Yeah. So that was a great example of the difference between like visual power and like hierarchical power.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I love that because what's true about Macbeth, I don't think you need to know Macbeth to be able to play this exercise. If you know that the play begins of these two people coming out of a war, right? And then, there's a lot of talk about killing at the beginning. So the idea of seeing that carnage, yeah.
I also saw visually it was like the power of numbers, which is together, because there's so few of them, they're powerful, as opposed to one.
Yes. The outnumbering, yeah.
I also thought it was cool how in the first one, having Macbeth and Banquo standing there amongst the dead bodies, like the lack of power that the dead bodies have in the story, but the power that they have over us visually then informs sort of the power that our two characters have.
Yes.
And that like they look like they're standing there with this hard-fought, hard-won power driving.
Who was that last one too? The witches had been facing this way and then they turned out. What does that do? Yeah.
It like took the power away from them, like we're not even paying attention to it.
Okay, so now we're going to add text, and this is how it's going to go. The group one is going to speak the text in the first section, labeled as the first section, to the characters that you were playing. You'll speak the character, and who says which one versus which two. You just have to figure it out up on stage. Whoever grabs that attention, right? You can speak in unison if there's more than one. Is more than three witches. Like one of the witches could speak like in unison, right? And then what's the difference between what happens when you have to transition from tableau to staging? What are some of the things that you have to keep in mind when you transition from a series of tableaus to a stage scene? Yeah.
Where your volume's going, because if you're yelling into the ground, nobody's going to be able to hear you.
Right. So that's a moment in time, but you might need to, look and change your gaze. What else? Staging isn't just like. Right. The transitions, right? So. Motivate those transitions. See if when you pick up and tap in, and you have to get to your first tableau, see if your first line can't take you there rather than going from here to there and then saying your first line. How many of you have said walk and talk? Yes. Yeah, okay. So yeah, take that direction. Walk and talk! Right? And motivate the cross and see wow, I have to start, I wasn't anticipating that I have to start here and I have to get here. How can I pick up the tempo to get there? Or how can I speak in that moment? All right? So, group one on stage with your script.
Can I coordinate with my partner?
No.
Yeah,
trying to be
Sweet,
firm,
sweet.
but
You guys do.
I want to.
You walk with us, I guess. Wait
Alright.
Try to get comfortable.
So you all have the script. When one is done, two is gonna come in, pick that position up, and you're gonna find a way to go from that last tableau to your first one and motivate it, all right? There are things that may occur between the tableaus that you can invent, right? You don't have to stick only to those pictures, okay?
So we're doing 1 and 2 seamlessly, our first to second tableau seamlessly? Or
You're finding where they happen in the text, right? You're like, okay, they might not all hit at the same time. One person might start it, another person might follow, right? There just has to be 1 second of that tableau present. Doesn't have to be fixed in space, right? How many of you saw Death of the Salesman?
The new one
The
just
new
came
one.
out?
Yeah. Right, you know how they were in the memories, they were like hitting those tableaux, boom, they were hitting those
Photograph.
memories, those photographs. You don't need to do it that way, although we could have a similar concept production, sure. But just thinking about hitting for a moment, right? Okay. Great, and we start our sequence seamlessly. Group 2 will come right up and take over and tap out this group. You know how to do it. And lights.
So foul and fair day I have not seen.
How far is it called before us? What are these? So withered and so wild in their attire that look not like the inhabitants of the earth and yet are on it? Live you? Or are you aught that man may question?
Using the text.
Speak, if you can. What are you?
All hail Macbeth. Hail to thee, Thane of Glamis. All hail Macbeth. Hail to thee, Thane of Cawdor. All hail Macbeth.
Thou shalt be king hereafter.
My noble partner, you greet and present grace and great prediction, a noble happy and of royal hope. That he seems wrapped with all, to me you speak not. You can look into the seeds of time and say which grain will grow and which will not. Speak then to me.
Hail.
Hail.
Hail. Lesser than Macbeth and greater.
Not so happy, yet much happier.
Thou shalt get kings, though thou be none. So all hail Macbeth and Banquo.
Banquo and Macbeth,
All hail.
Steady, you imperfect speakers. Tell me more. Say from whence you owe this strange intelligence. Speak, I charge you.
The earth hath bubbles as the water has, and these are of them. Whither they vanished?
To the air, and what seemed corporal melted as breath into and stayed.
Were such things here as we do speak about? Or have we eaten on the insane route that takes the reason prisoner?
Your children should be kings.
You shall be king.
And Thane of Cawdor too, were it not so?
To the self-same tune and words. Who's there?
We're gonna play a little bit with how do we work from that there, right? So that's 4 different groups coming up with ideas on what the stage pictures could be in this scene, right? What did you love? What do you feel like, ooh, gotta keep that. That really worked well with the text. That really connected. What did you see up here that you really were vibing with? Yes.
The stage directions say witches vanish, but we have the witches stay on stage and just freeze. And I think that's really cool because it implies that presence is still there, but somehow these other characters can't see them. But we can, and that's exciting.
I've seen this play so many times. I've never seen that before, you know, where they just, the idea of them looking out to the audience like, I'm frozen now, you know? I mean, I've disappeared, but I'm still here. And they're going like, where are they, right? So playing into that, that would be something to go like, yes and to, as a director, like, how can we make that clearer? Because I got a little sense of that, but how could we make it so they're like, where are they? And we're like, we understand, you know? Yes, yeah.
Was that a real question, or how can we make it clearer?
Oh yeah, sure, why not?
Just like to have Banquo and Macbeth come out from behind the table and walk among the witches and make it clear that they can.
Yes. No, I also love the image of Banquo and Macbeth being under the table, but I want to motivate that. So that's an example of going like, all right, well, why are they underneath the table? And how did they get there? Because it's such a beautiful image, right? Of this like private conference, especially because Angus and Lennox are about to come in and deliver the news that the first 2 pieces of the prophecy are correct, that the witches just gave them. So how do we motivate that underneath there?
Well, it did mention in the scene description that they were looking at the weather in the beginning. So maybe a storm or something comes and they go for shelter.
Oh, I love that. Can I take the? I know that's so cool. Can we see that? Can we see that 4th group back up? And let's try those things. Yes. Oh, that's so cool. We got some sound designers in here. Right. So we got to figure out a way. From the top. So can I ask you to witches for them to? How do you want them to like freeze? What do we think? Do you want them all to freeze looking out, or turn away at one point? Yeah. Right, that's right. I think that's a wonderful opportunity to be like not quite finished and therefore turning to your peers, right?
I think when you came around, did you turn into like part of the woods?
We just came up with the concept of
because I kind of loved that you turned into the woods. I kind of loved that. I don't know if maybe when you vanished, you don't really vanish, but you turn into the woods.
Yeah.
Like maybe a tree or something, like to emulate where they are. I kind of love that you did that. Maybe other witches could emulate that and stagger. Yeah. And then it would give them a reason to walk through the wood and then under the table.
Yes, I think it would be really great to correspond then this moment of freeze, everyone looking out to freeze, and you guys coming out and chasing after them as if they've left downstage. So come out, look past them, I don't see them, where do they go? And you're frozen. There's a cue that indicates weather, maybe prompted by the wishes, that then turns into all of you very much sustained motion, moving around the stage and looking, but not being seen. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right? So what would be the cue in the text that maybe you can have the
Into the air.
Drop that shit.
oh yeah, make a good sound. Yeah. What would be the cue for that
So
sound?
in the line "Into the air, a breath in the wind," he's mentioning the atmosphere and the weather in that line.
Yes, I love that. Into the wind.
Like the sound of thunder or something like
that. Yeah. How about just so you can hear that? Would they had stayed, and that's the sound. I just really went here. And then you see the skies open, and then you seek cover underneath here. Let's try it. Let's see what that does. Yeah. Right, so you're taking those images, letting them inspire some staging, not feeling like you have some kind of loyalty to those tableaus, like, but it must happen this way, right? We can break that open and change that. Taking it from the top, we're looking at, just to review the ensemble, the moment of freeze is held until would they had stayed. When you move, that's going to prompt us, and we're going to have some wind sounds maybe. All right, and lights.
Stay, you imperfect speakers. Tell me more. Say from whence you owe this strange intelligence. Speak. I ask you.
The earth hath bubbles as the water has, and these are them. Whither are they vanished?
Into the air. And what seemed corporal melted as breath into the wind. What did it say?
For such things here do you speak about. But we all have we eaten on the insane root that takes the reason prisoner.
Your children shall be king.
You shall be king.
And fame is Cawdor too. When did that so?
To the self-same tune and words. Who's there?
Oh, You're the road witch. You're the road witch.
Okay, are we a bush? Oh no, now I'm sliding. I don't know.
So that's so good.
I was grass.
So, do you see how Macbeth and Banquo's intention changed when the weather, like urgency came up? Did it feel different? Did you hear that? Because the weather is coming in, right? So that moment of being like, I'm stranded out here, would lead to a character, you never know who that third witch is. You know what I mean?
It was
the
hectic.
third witch. I'm like, because, the witches are an interesting challenge because you think about what your concept for the witches is going to tell us a lot about the world of that play, but also how do you differentiate, find individual voice and collective voice, which is the kind of overall thing that we're always thinking about as teachers, as educators, right? How do we find that collective voice and the individual and really spotlight and showcase the individual voice, right? The other thing to think about is how, I thought you guys did such a great job with making the transitions between tableaus, but really then starting to think about how do we loosen up that from tableau to staging, and I think you guys did such a fantastic job. What was that like, being on stage and trying to figure out how to move from frozen picture into moving staging? What did it feel like to do that? Yeah.
A little stressful, but in a good way, because of the fact that we had like no rehearsal time. It was
Yeah.
like, okay, I know what I have to do, so I guess I'll just do it. And
Kind of like what it feels like to do a first run through, right? You're like, okay, wait, I'm supposed to be over here, but yeah, good. Stressful in a good way. I like that. Yeah.
I feel like it's a great lesson with, in blocking, like even when you're not talking and you're not moving, if you make them do the tableau first, that you're still in character at all times.
Yeah.
It forces them to do, I think that would be great with the students.
And because you all are so beautifully expert at making tableau, right? I was like, okay, I don't really have to do a lot as a director for directing this. There's so much gorgeous, committed, clear stage pictures, telling the story. Nobody was like, who's Macbeth? Who's the witches, right? People weren't just standing going, I'm a witch, You guys were just like, it was clear that the witches had this kind of a level, right, to them, and we knew immediately who they were. On stage. But if you have students who are giving you not that commitment level, you can just use it as a starting place. All right, you are this far apart from this character, or how do we make it clear on the second round of the tableaus who's who in the scene, right? Cool. All right, so at this point, I am going to hand it over to Andrew, who's going to facilitate the reflection of this workshop.
Hi.
Yes.
What's up? How you doing?
Here it is.
So along with her power, they stole my cheat sheet, so I had to rewrite it. And my handwriting is atrocious, so please don't judge me. If you need to, that's cool. So I'm going to back some elements you can all see. These are the same questions I'm sure you guys went over with your class. We're just going to discuss them here really quick. I'm going to read through them, then we're going to pair up in groups. share out there, and then if you guys have something that you want to share with the group past that, we'll do that afterwards. First of all, what struck you as a participant? One of the wonderful things about these PD sessions is that it's one of the few times of the year where we get to take our teacher hat off and play. And be a student, and be creative, and not worry about lesson plans, but suck stuff in that eventually we can take a look at and work into our own work. I don't know how many of you guys are doing Shakespeare, but the wonderful part about this is that so much of it is just, I take this piece and that'll work here with what I'm doing. And I can take this and I can try this with that group because I haven't really been able to reach them yet, and what a great activity this would be to warm them up and to get them involved in a different way. Second one, what is relevant to your teaching, your planning? So then after we're the students, we still have to remember that we're educators. So what can you take from this? What spoke to you? What did you go, hey man, John would be really good if he did that. Or I could see me putting this in this class for that reason. And then we go to number 3. What did you notice about your presenter and how the session was led? That's specifically about Melissa and her amazingness. What I love about working with her so often is that she breathes this. It's so natural. I look at what you do and it blows me away every time I see it. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes to sit and talk amongst yourselves. Don't worry about the number of people in your group. Whoever's near you is absolutely wonderful to speak to because we're theater educators. Turn and talk, share some of this out, and then we'll come back in about 4 or 5 minutes to share a couple of ideas with the whole group. Thank you guys so much for your work.
Like the higher up it is, the better.
Make it big,
Like this is one edge. Is that like I think kids have such a hard time sometimes like motivating, but like going okay, we have to do this and this, and we're coming from this and going to this. When we got asked to like okay, you have to go from one to the other, nobody had to ask how to motivate ourselves there. We just know okay, I'm a witch and I'm here, I'm going over there now, and it was so much easier because you already know what the end decision is. So all you have to do is the motivation. That people get so hung up so often on like okay, I have to be motivated and I have to move. And I think, you know, in animation, there's these things called keyframes, where you put the 2 keyframes and the computer can basically do the rest. And that's kind of what this is. I'm definitely going to use this with my kids because they have such a hard time walking and chewing gum. But if I say you need to
Are you cutting out the quarter section? Because I'm not. The junior high school kids, but I'm like, hey, they know they know. The audience knows they know. If not, no, this is going to be the quarter section.
But it's like actually,
Yes, they just
Let's try like this
How you doing?
Good,
Are you having fun?
Oh yeah.
I'm looking at your rig. It's time for me to buy a new.
Yes. Yeah, because like I should.
You can't put my handwriting in the video. That's not fair, dude. 2 minutes, guys. 2 minutes. minutes. We have time for final questions.
But also, like, they have no idea about anything. Now that you've done that, it's like walking on the back of
Wrap it up, 30 seconds. Is that the place? Midsummers? Okay. Can I have your attention, please? Your attention. If you can hear me, clap once. I hate you. I'm just going to stop there once. Okay, so let's go through some of these. If you guys had anything that stuck out to you in your conversations, I would love to hear it. But before we get into those, I have to remind you something that I forgot to say before to most of you, which was to sign in. Before you guys leave this room, there's a sign-up sheet on that table over there that if you don't sign in, they're not giving you credit for today. So if you're not on it, write your name in. Sure, we can do that too, absolutely. That totally works. We can pass that around as it goes through. Just rip it off the table, no worries, there's a pen attached. Okay, so before you leave the room, please make sure your name is on that. But back to these. So, what struck you as a participant and as a learner about these activities? Yes, please.
We talked about how they really went well together and built from the first activity with the table and the chairs. We don't think that the second activity would have been as successful if we hadn't started with that first activity, because it started with like the essence of what we're meant to discover today, and then added in a story and a text and real power dynamics, and that helped us focus on like what is visually being communicated as opposed to some kind of discussion about Macbeth and Banquo.
Wonderful, good. That educational growth, the leveling, I guess we call it. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, please, sir.
We talked about scaffolding a lot, the different layers of scaffolding, like she said, they go from the simple, the first text into the final text, also adding in the vocabulary and how that just seamlessly all came together. Also, I was in a different workshop and came in here, and I was able to jump in, so the scaffolding, no matter when you come in, you can still jump into it and follow along.
That's huge. Yes. Also the idea that while we have that scaffolding and that leveling in place, everything tied back to that idea of power throughout the entirety of the lesson. I really like that. Yes, sir.
I was just thinking about it. It's because for what you guys are saying, it's so much more accessible because the physicality comes first, and then the text is just it comes afterwards and layered in. Usually when you have text and now you have to get up and actually all of a sudden you're robotic. Now we work with the body first, the text comes in and it just works out naturally.
Or if you're not a good reader.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Wonderful way to bring it back to your classroom. Absolutely. Absolutely. Good. Heading on to number 2, what is relevant to your teaching, your planning? What little nuggets did you go, I'm stealing that, I'm using that, that'll work amazingly? Yes?
So I'm starting, after I finish this unit now, I'm going to start playwriting. I was just thinking about how a set could be a starter. If we didn't go into Macbeth, right, we already had like these stories, he's the director, he's the mediator, and it was like so seamless, like just putting a few chairs and you have a story already come out.
Yeah.
And the group could start writing their own lines. I just always thought of prop starters and character starters and sentence starters, but I never really used set starters.
I totally want you to reach out to us after you do it and let us know.
I will.
Because I feel like this would work so well in the classroom.
Yeah.
I'm excited to use it myself. Yes. Oh, is that a hand? It's not. Never mind. Yes, Josh.
We were talking about how sometimes it's hard for our students to actually find, like, if they don't know where they're going, to have them motivate themselves in rehearsals and stay in character and everything. And we kind of talked about how, even though we didn't know what the scene before us that we were tapping into, we knew where we had to go, So all we had to do is motivate ourselves, and everything in between wasn't filled in for us. We knew it was like keyframes in animation, like you're gonna be here, and you're gonna be here, and then that gives the students a scaffold to make their motivation to move around in, rather than being like, okay, where are you gonna cross to now?
That's extremely well said. Yeah, I like the keyframes and animation. I'm gonna hold that one in my head. Yes, sir.
In the morning session, I went to the ritual in the classroom workshop, and we talked about social emotional learning in theater class and how to create rituals for that. Something I appreciate about this activity to use with students is that it would be community building, but also potentially, preemptively de-escalating for conflict, because students share the creation and they have to build on each other's ideas. So it builds relationships, but also through the course of a class has them feel as though they've created something together, possibly with someone who they have a disagreement with. They may have had to build on their ideas, and so that can help, I think, if there is tension in the class.
Wonderful. Hey, forgive me for time. I'm going to hop up to number 3. What did you notice about how the presenter led the session? So this is the actual how she taught you guys, what you guys did from your student mind to see what she did as her teacher mind. Did that make sense when I said it? I'm not sure. Yes.
I felt like while Melissa had the power because she knew what was coming next and where it was going, I never felt like I wasn't also a part of this class. And I also noticed, like, when somebody forgot to do something, there was gentle side coaching. It was never like, you did it wrong. It was just like, oh, include the text. Let's add the text back in.
Wonderfully, that comes back to that idea of in class still sharing that power. Just another level of the same idea. I love it. Yes?
Well, she had built in lots of choice making. That's, first of all, that leads to a democratic classroom, but also the groups, putting kids in groups allows for more autonomy over what they do. So, yeah.
Yes.
And in terms of engagement and like classroom management and environment, this is a kind of directing that includes everyone, even the people who are not playing named parts with lines. So like your ensemble is actively involved and feels as important in every scene.
I love what you said before. I'm going to misword this, but something to the effect of, if you have more characters than there are in the scene, find different ways to use them. And what a great way to open up to that kid who doesn't feel comfortable coming in front of the class and talking, but can absolutely be like, yo, I'm going to be the best tree there is. Absolutely. Yes, last point, then we're gonna head out.
The yes and, like, it could have gone anyway, right? Like, they just happened, they were under the table. It could have been something else, and that, like, let us think, oh, okay, well, why don't we do sound cues? Like, it really felt like going in the moment, and we tell the students to do that, and so it was great modeling.
That I did yes and grow on what they're sharing with you. Yes, absolutely. Guys, I want to take a second just to thank you guys for your work today. This rejuvenates me every time I leave one of these things to see what you guys do and bring to the table. So thank you guys very, very much for that. We're going to head now, after you sign the sign-in sheet, back into the theater space where Peter's going to do the closing, and we're going to get a bunch of swag.
There's one thing I wanted to mention that I didn't say before, which is the Shakespeare part of it is just literally incidental. Like, don't feel like it has to be a Shakespeare scene. It could be anything you're working on, but it happens to be a project I'm working on right now, so I was just like, oh, I'm gonna steal all of your shit, basically. No, kidding. But just wanted to make sure that point is made, that you can take apart the Great Game of Power and the tableau exercise, and you can re-scaffold and use other texts. Please do, in fact.
And a massive thanks to Melissa for working you guys.